So, Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, has just responded on a podcast to the SNL50 appearance of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, and he is not happy about it. But also, he responds to the alleged HR complaints that started circulating on the internet. You're not going to want to miss this one. So we got to talk about Brian Friedman appearing on Billy Bush's podcast just probably less than an hour ago, and I happened to come across it, and he is not taking light what happened with SNL50 last night, as well as the sexual harassment complaints that many believe are fake. I want to show you some of the clips to this, and then I'm going to give you some context.
Brian, what's interesting to me now is a lot of these people who turned their back on Justin Baldoni right off the bat, like he did a podcast called the Man Enough podcast, and he did it with this woman, Liz Plank is his partner in the podcast. Soon as this New York Times thing, comes out that Blake and the New York Times put out on December 20th, Liz Plank, a couple days later, drops Baldoni. I'm stepping away from the podcast, given the light of what we've learned here. Brandon Sklenar, who's the other male lead, I guess, in It Ends With Us, he supports Blake in the beginning. He unfollows Baldoni. Just this morning, he seems to have moved to neutral. He is now, they're asking him, are you team Baldoni or are you team Lively? He says, I'm team the movie. I have a friend who went through this. He is now completely backed away. And there are these HR complaints that are circulating around social media, alleged complaints that say there are two other women on the cast who also had situations with Justin that were no good. One saying, oh, he grabbed my butt while he was helping me in a scene. And the other one, just not good. But they're heavily redacted. And what I understand is that these were circulated to major news organizations, and they did not go with it. They decided not to run it for fear of defamation, I'm sure, for fear of you and defamation. So they didn't run it. But some of these TikTokers have done it. It's out there. Do you have any information as to how this got out there? And is this slander? Is this something you're looking into?
I actually have the HR complaints, but I want to show you a clip from Steph with the Deets over on TikTok, and because she's been doing a great job breaking down this entire case, and take a listen to what she has to say about it.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are working overtime to sway the public opinion. First, let's talk about these alleged 3 HR complaints against Justin Baldoni. The main reason why I do not believe a single one of these HR complaints is because Sony themselves have denied any HR complaints being filed against Justin Baldoni. Let's remember that because we have that on record. Now we'll talk about that more so at the end, but let's get into the details of these complaints. I had been hearing about these HR complaints, but today was the day someone actually sent them to me. And the person that sent them to me, they said a lot of people have them, which I find weird. That is weird. We'll get to that in a second. I think everyone is waiting to see what she includes in the next round, but Ryan is not a monster, and Blake was definitely a victim. Justin's behavior sounds batshit crazy and predatory. From what I've heard, these complaints have been sent to TMZ, Daily Mail, Page 6. I mean, these are outlets that have definitely published things that are not true. They have not even published these HR complaints because they are afraid to be sued for defamation. So Blake and Ryan's team, they're sending these out to these media outlets that they thought would publish them, but they won't even publish them. So what's the next best step? Of course, TikTokers, influencers that are covering this. You want to know what's really funny about all of this? We have this Variety article. Literally states, back in August, when the coverage of the mysterious feud between Lively and Baldoni began to spiral on social media and in the press, Variety inquired of Sony whether an HR complaint had been filed against Baldoni during the production, and they said no. Funny enough, all these complaints were sent to Sony and not Wayfarer, but they would go tell Variety, no, we've never had an HR complaint. This is all a ploy to win over the public opinion, and it's not working.
I think we're looking into everything. It's interesting. Let me ask you, what are the dates of these HR complaints? Do you know the dates?
There's no dates. The dates are redacted. The names of the complainants are redacted, except for on one of them, there's an M. And in Blake's original, when she went to Sony, and by the way, they're not to Wayfair Studios, Justin's company, they're to Sony, the distributor, to their HR department, and there's an M in there, which means at least one of the other ones came around the same time, if it's May, unless it was March, but probably May, same time as Blake.
Right. Well, it sounds like we're playing Wheel of Fortune with the letters. I might buy a vowel to try to find out what month that is.
Now, we're going to get back into this interview, but I just want to remind you guys about my merch that I just dropped last week. And this is my Team Justin merch. And I will give you a little bit more about this at the end of the video, but I just want to show you guys how I created this. Is you can only get it exclusively at realmelanieking.com. The link will be in the description box as well as the pinned comment. But I have my Justice Dragon merch, and it ends with court. So it's some pretty funny stuff. I have some new designs coming out, but let's get back into the video.
I'd like to, I'm not really sure why the dates are redacted. That's interesting. I understand why people could be redacted. I believe in certain privacy rights, certainly. But I'm not really clear on why dates would be redacted. So it'll be interesting to see what the dates are. And as far as Sony is concerned, I believe there's a Variety article that I read that's published, that's out there, that says Sony received no complaints.
Yes,
yeah,
Sony has said they received no complaints. So Sony's going to have to, it seems to me that if Blake wants this to stick, or, the other two, no one else is coming forward saying that they also were harassed or experienced anything untoward with their director, Justin Baldoni. But Blake's going to have to get Sony to come forward, and I don't think they have. And if they haven't, I don't see them coming forward until it's time. Would you, I guess we'll eventually know, right? Someone from Sony will have to say something.
Right. I'm unaware of any other, frankly, HR complaints that have been filed. And I think if you look through the website and you look through the documents, you can see clearly from certain documents that there were no HR complaints filed.
Right. And that is true. There were not.
Getting to the SNL50 appearance, which was the absolute worst cringe ever. Not only the jokes that I guess that it was supposed to be funny with Ryan Reynolds standing up and even alluding to what this lawsuit is absolutely deranged, but also the red carpet where they're trying to play and pretend as though nothing's going on. Let me show you those clips in case you missed it.
Ryan Reynolds, how's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard? Yeah, okay. But my question is that that the materials that they made the cone heads with, are those edible?
Edible? No. And based on them being made in 1975, I'd assume that they're highly toxic.
Oh, okay. So if somebody, hypothetically took a couple of nibbles backstage and, got excited, should they go to the hospital or should they?
Yes, they should go to the hospital right away.
Good.
Again, you mentioned the latest move. Wasn't the latest move last night?
Oh, Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, that seemed like that might be the latest move.
What did you think when you saw, Ryan, make light of the situation? I guess try to find some humor in all this.
I'm unaware of anybody, frankly, whose wife has been sexually harassed and has made jokes about that type of situation.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone who's done anything like that. And so it surprised me.
Yeah, Ryan, if your wife was being sexually harassed, why are you making light of it? I thought you guys couldn't leave the house and you're just so distraught and it's destroyed your lives and she's under, all this immense trauma. But yet you're standing up and getting glammed and going out the house, which you said you couldn't do, and you're making jokes just like you did with Deadpool when you put in Nice Pool, which was supposed to be Justin Baldoni, and making fun of him. And not just making fun of him. I mean, this is outright. I don't even know what you would call this, but it is an absolutely. If you saw Deadpool, if you've seen the clips of it, he even has Justin Baldoni being killed in Deadpool, the supposed Nice Pool. Now, there's a lot of receipts that tie into that. I'm not going to get into it here because it would take like 2 hours. But just know that if it's that serious, why would you then make fun of the guy that's sexually harassing and traumatizing your wife in Deadpool and then again now at SNL50? Now, this next part, I'm going to give myself a little pat on the shoulder because they talk about the metadata. And I was one of the people that not only discovered some of the metadata to help Justin Baldoni's case, but then I also reported first on some metadata. And I'm going to insert those clips when they get to that part.
You've seen social media. You've seen some mainstream media, certainly not the New York Times. But you've seen social media and these TikTokers and people on YouTube. They're amazing. They're brilliant.
Yeah, Candace
They're
Owens.
dead.
Candace Owens has been on this like you wouldn't believe. She's a tigress. And the Steph with the deets on TikTok. I mean, there's so many people that are fascinated here, but they're justice warriors. You know what I mean? They see an injustice. And now with metadata and all this stuff, you can track so much of this stuff. I mean, people are doing, you've got free paralegals out there, man.
The text messages that are embedded on the New York Times article, the whole Justin Baldoni, the original article that came out on the 21st. I did a video yesterday showing that the video that went with the New York Times that a lot of people had not seen, that the metadata showed that date was actually on the 12th, December 12th, 2024. Not only is it in the metadata, but this is the actual URL, but we have an earlier date. So I got a message on my X account, which I'm on there, Real Melanie King, and a woman showed me that you can see the data within this embedded image. So as you can see, it's highlighted, right? So what I did was I inspected this whole thing. I opened it up on Google, and as you can see, there's like the metadata. But then when you get into the actual properties of this little text message image, you can see it's not an image, but it was actually done by some type of generator. The date for this generator is October 31st, 2024. Okay? Almost 2 months before Blake Lively filed her complaint and the New York Times article came out. So we're seeing something that is almost 2 months before was created in this generator. And this date is all over the place when it comes to this. October 31st, Halloween of last year. What's also crazy is that Megan Twohey, who wrote this whole thing, who was the main author, yesterday the New York Times did an entire podcast doubling down on their claims within this, even with all the evidence that shows that most of it was not true, at least in my opinion, from the evidence I've seen. Guys, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. The new date we have, the earliest date we have is October 31st, 2024. Now, one of the things that the mainstream media I've seen do, and especially with Ari Emanuel, who runs WME, tried to make very light of this whole situation, like it's just a a PR battle. And even on TMC, Harvey that runs there, he's like, are you gonna go to deposition? Are you gonna subpoena Taylor Swift? I mean, haven't you won already? Isn't it enough? Like, shouldn't you just settle and just like let bygones be bygones? And this shows you how inept and corrupt that the media is. Because if you just Helen Keller could look, well, she couldn't look, but Helen Keller would be able to see that the case that Justin Baldoni has, and including his receipts, are, I mean, it will lay waste to so many parts of Hollywood. And the fact that they think this is just about PR, no, it's about justice. And this is exactly what Justin Baldoni's lawyer says in this clip.
So there was mediation, like there was an idea of mediation, and both sides, your side and Blake's, shot it down. No one wanted, no, were you open to mediating this? And the other side said no, because I don't understand why this could and should end, but it has to be them, right?
Well, I'll comment on what I can. In what was filed with the court before the Rule 26 hearing, the question was asked about whether we would be willing to go to mediation, and whether we were open to that. Our answer to that was no. We're not willing to do anything until Justin is cleared of being called a predator, of being called a sexual harasser. Until that is determined to have not happened, we will be doing this.
Now, this last part, I would say, is the most important part. And this is one reason I got involved. Like, if this is just some simple Hollywood spat, I don't really care. But it's about the defamation. It's about the fake Me Too, which this is what they tried to do to Justin Baldoni in conjunction with the New York Times. This is my belief, and this is most people's belief. And so it's not enough to just, oh, let's just give him the money and everything's fine. There's several complainants in this lawsuit that are have filed, and I think there's more complainants that are going to be added. I'm talking about studios. I'm talking about a lot of different places. I mean, this has tendrils that will touch all of Hollywood. It will touch the media. This is an opportunity to expose and shed light on how corrupt they are and how they work arm in arm, and they get to pick and choose who becomes a star and who doesn't. And not only that, it's a story of David and Goliath. And it's going to be I would say this is going to set a precedent that will completely change not only Hollywood, not only the media, but it's going to wake up people who have not been really tuned into any of these things, that just kind of are sheep that lap up whatever the news says and just believe it. This is going to open a lot of eyes, and especially once we get to trial.
What is most important to Justin? The 400 million or some kind of financial settlement to make up for maybe lost work. Has he lost work? Has he lost have people backed away from him for a future project?
A substantial amount of work.
Really? Reminds me of Army Hammer, just like everything on the slate gone. So geez, out he goes. That's really too bad for Justin. But so what happens with him now? I mean, what do you do? Does he want the money? Does he want a full-blown apology by Blake? Does he want her to fall on the sword and say, I made this up? What do you need to hear? What does he need to hear?
I think he wants a determination. I know he wants a determination that he did not engage in the behavior that is alleged, and that he did not engage in sexual harassment or create a smear campaign or anything like that. And there have been some serious allegations leveled against him that he's not making jokes about, that he's not creating movies and other things where he makes a joke about his situation. What he wants is justice. He wants a chance to be able to prove that he's a good person, and he is a good person.
So you heard what he had to say. I'm excited to see this case continue to go forth. I'm excited to continue to dig up receipts and see what we can find. But as I said in the middle of the video, I just want to show you really quickly my merch that I drop and that you can only get exclusively at realmelanieking.com. But I have my Justice Dragon, okay, here, which it's a design that I created where we have, Blake Lively said that she's Khaleesi from Game of Thrones, and she has her dragons, which was alluding to Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift. Oof, I can't wait for those receipts. And Taylor Swift as her dragons. And it was so cringe and ridiculous. So, but I thought, you know what? All of the internet, all of us who believe in justice, see this as a David and Goliath story, really see it as the little person fighting back against the machine. As you know what? We're his dragons. We are Justice Dragons, not Justin, Justice. Okay, so that's where I came up with this. You can get it as a double-sided pillow. I have it in mugs in different sizes, and also in a lilac t-shirt and a white one here. And then, of course, It Ends With Us was a book by Colleen Hoover, and it became the movie, and all this is where all the drama comes from. But I thought, why not It Ends With Court? Because that's exactly what's happening. So just like with the Justice Dragon merch, I have it in a double-sided pillow, mug, and of course the 2 t-shirts. If you want to support the show, you can head on over there and pick up some merch, but you also could follow me on social media, especially X and TikTok. I'm building those accounts, and I am posting, especially on X, things that I can't quite get to in a long form video on YouTube. But with that, I will see you guys on the next one.